Welcome back. We have already learnt about the two built-in dialog boxes, message box and the input box. Can we create our own dialog boxes in Microsoft Excel? Yes. So we go to the Developer tab, Visual Basic, and here click on Insert. We have been till now using the module area to create our macros. This time we will use the user form. Okay, we will click on the user form, and as soon as you click on the user form, you get a gray box like this. Looks like a graph paper. Now this is the template where we can create our own dialog box. And if you notice here on the left under forms, you have user form 1. So we can right click on this and change the name of this user form. Instead of user form 1, we can give it a more user friendly name. Alright, or we can just right click on the user form here, go to properties, and here in the name area, instead of just writing user form, we can write form data. Okay, let's say we are going to collect some data. Now what will this dialog box actually do for us? Well, it will take the data from the user form and place it on the Excel worksheet, and vice versa, which means you can take the data from the worksheet and place it onto your user form. So we'll see that very soon. In the caption, we can click here and we can just say data. Okay, and you see the moment you write data here, it appears in the title bar. So our object name or the form name is FRM data. Again, looks like a camel annotation, isn't it? So now if you notice, as soon as I click on the form, you see something known as the toolbox. Toolbox has what are known as controls. So we will place a few controls here, okay? And you will see that it's not very difficult to understand. So we will go to this label, click on it. We will go here inside our form and just click. You can click and drag also, but clicking is enough. If you click, you get something like this. Now what you have done is you have inserted a label onto your form. So we will change the name here to LBL. That is the convention used to name. So we will say here, for example, label first name. Okay, and we will give it the caption first name. Now you can easily see when I run this user form, when I go here and click on this, it shows you the first name, that is the label. That means if I do something here now, it tells you clearly that it will help the user to understand that if he has to enter some data next to this, it should be the first name. Okay. To enter data, we use what is known as a text box. So we click on this, we click and drag. You cannot just click also. So we click and drag, and we get a text box. Now we can click here and we can name our text box text first name and press enter. No caption is available for this. Alright, so you see the toolbox has disappeared. The moment I click on the form, that means get away from this text box, the toolbox will appear. There it is. So I'm going to now insert another label called last name. I'll just click here. So LBL last name, press enter, and I will give it the caption last name. Press enter and click on the form to see the toolbox. Click on the text box, and here I will insert a text box again. Give it a name, text last name. Okay. Now I will insert a label. Click here. Go here and call it label mobile. Press enter, because here next to this I would like the user to enter the mobile number. So I will give this label the caption mobile number. Okay, press enter. Now I will place a text box next to that so that the user can enter a mobile number. I'll make this slightly bigger. Okay. And now I will take a command button here, place it here, give this command button a good name, CMD, and I will say send. It's going to send data from the user form onto our worksheet, and the caption will be send data to worksheet. Okay. Going to make this slightly bigger like this so you can see that the whole caption is now visible. Let me just arrange this a little bit so that there it is. Okay. So now we will run this and see how it looks like. And there you see this is how it looks like. So the user will enter the first name here, the last name, the mobile number. Click here and the data should go here or wherever we want it to go. Okay, I'm going to close this now, and I will double click on this command button, and you see we get a kind of module where we can enter some code. So I will say, for example, that range a2 dot value that will now be assigned from the text box first name dot text. And you see this menu will only appear if this name is written correctly. So I'll just click on the text and press the tab key. Okay. The second thing I'm going to write is range b2 dot value. So range b2 will become text last name dot text, which means that when I enter the text and click on this command button send, then this data will go to range A2 or cell A2, and this will go to range B2 or cell B2. Now I will write the mobile number. So range C2 dot value will be assigned the value text mobile dot. See, nothing happened. So most probably this name that I have written here is not correct. So how do I know which is the correct name? So I will just go here to view, object, click on this, and see I haven't changed it. So I'm going to make this txt mobile. Okay, and press enter. Now I will double click on this command button And now if I put a dot, you should see a menu. There it is. Okay, so I'll write value, and now this value will go to range C2. Alright, so I'm going to minimize this first, and here I'm going to add a few headers, and the headers will be obviously first name, last name, mobile number. Okay, I'm going to just double click on this so that it is auto fitted. Now you see I have headers in A1, B1 and C1, and my data should come here. Okay, so I'll go back to Visual Basic, run this form. See, let me just show you that form. I will run this form by clicking on the run button, and there it is. So if I move this slightly away here like this, and write here for example Tom, last name London, and mobile number something like this, and if I click on this, you will see that this data is transferred here. There you see. So in a similar fashion, when I have data here and I want to view it on my user form, I can do that also, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to click here to close this form. I will go here to the toolbox, controls, click on the command button and create a second command button here. I will call this CMD get. Okay, it should get the data from the worksheet into the user form, and I will give it the caption get data from worksheet and press enter. Okay, so I'll double click on this and I will code this in a very similar fashion, but this time we are going the other way around. We will get our values text, first name, that is our text box, dot text. Now in the text box we are going to get the value from range A2, right? Dot value. Similarly, text last name dot text, and this text box is going to be assigned the value from range B2 dot value. Okay, and our mobile number text mobile dot text will come from range C2 dot value. Alright, so now we'll run this form by clicking here, and this time I will click this button. So this data, Tom should go here against the first name, London should go to the last name, and the mobile number should go here. Alright, so we click on this, and there you see we have created a user form that can interact with our worksheet both ways. Now in the next video we'll improve upon this. How do we improve upon this? That when we click here to send data, the data will go to the next row. So we won't fix the cells. Similarly, when we get data from here, we want to get maybe the next data, the first data, the last data, that is maybe in row 10 and so on. So we will improve that. Alright. So we have created a user form to interact with our worksheet. Now when we click on our command button, this one, command button send, then the data always goes to the row 2. Now that is a drawback, isn't it? So when we click now on the send command button, the data should now go here, and then it should go here, and so on. So we are going to create that code now. So we'll go back to our developer tab, Visual Basic, and we will double click on our CMD send. Now we will change our code. Okay, the first thing we need to find is how many rows are already used. So assuming that our data starts at cell A2, we can then do something like this. We can say range A2 dot select. It should select our data here, this one. Okay, now once that is selected, we can go down and find out how many rows are already occupied. So we will use this concept, active cell dot end parenthesis XL down. I have selected that one. That is the first one, XL down dot select. Now I will write another line of code and call that variable last row, and that will get the value from the active cell dot row. What do these three lines of code do? This, of course, you know that it selects range A2, then it goes down, but where does it go down? It goes down right up to whatever rows you have used, and then it can give us the value of the last row. Now how do we find that out? Well, we can use a message box. So we'll say message box last row. Okay, now if we run this, our form will of course open up, but you will see something very interesting. You will get a message box also, and you will know exactly where your last row is. So let me run this. There you see, when I click on send data to worksheet, it tells me that my last row is 3. Alright, this is perfect, isn't it? Once I know where my last row is, now I can start putting data from here into the next one. Alright, so I'm going to close this. So I will say that when I click on this CMD send button, my next data should go here, cells last row plus 1, okay, and into the first column, that value will go from my text box, which is defined as text first name dot text. Okay, so now let's run this part of the code and see whether the data will be transferred to the correct row. So I'll click on the run button, write here a name, let's say Raman, click on send data to worksheet. So first I get the message box for the last row, okay, and there you see then Raman is transferred from the user form to the last row plus 1. Alright, I'm going to close this. Then I'm going to remark this out, and I will now write the code for the other values that will go to column 2 and 3. So now I have completed the code for all the 3 text boxes, and let us run this now. I have deleted that part, so I will enter here again Raman. Okay, last name Mehta, and let me enter a phone number, let's say 9810081890. Okay, and now I will click here on send to worksheet. So you see it comes exactly where it is supposed to come, right? So in this manner we are now able to transfer data to the proper areas. Let me do one more, but before I do that, let me write some code. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to actually clear this data once I have clicked on send data to worksheet, and then I want also my cursor to come to range A2. So I'm going to close this now, double click on send data to worksheet, and here I will write the rest of the code, and I will say okay, you select range A2 again, dot select, and now you clear all the 3 text boxes. For example, like this, txt first name dot text, that should be blank. I'm going to do that for the last name and for the mobile number. Okay, so now the code to clear all the 3 text boxes has been added. I'll run this now, and I'll add another data. So I'll call this Linda, last name is Jones, and I'll enter a mobile number. Okay, and I will click on send data to worksheet. The data should come here and this should clear away so that I can enter more data. Do you notice that? And our cursor comes back to A2. So now we have achieved our data entry in such a way that it keeps on adding to the data and just doesn't go to the same row. Alright. Now we will next code this button so that we can get data from here onto our user form. Let's say we get this data first, and if we click next we should get Laura, and if we click again we should get Raman. Okay, so I'll close this now. We are back here. As you can see, I have divided the earlier button, the longer one, get data from worksheet into user form, into 2 parts, and these 2 parts will help us to navigate through the different data from our worksheet. So if we wish to go to the next data, we can get that, and so on, and similarly we can get the previous data. Later on you will see I have put an image box also here, and here we will get some pictures of, let us say, the people whose name we write here. Alright, so let's start coding the get next data from worksheet. And as you can see, the name for this is CMD get next, and of course the caption you can see here. So I'll double click this and we can start coding this. It is quite obvious when we are scrolling through data one by one, we need a counter. So we will first define a counter right at the top. We will say dim current row We can write as integer if we have not too much data, but if we have lots of data, then we can say as long. Okay, and press enter. Now, why have I defined this right at the top? Well, the current row variable is going to be used by 2 or 3 areas. So I have defined this at the top because this becomes a global variable. Now it can be used by any of the modules or the buttons. Okay, so we will now code the get next button. We will start by incrementing the current row. So we will start with current row will be assigned the value current row plus 1. Now, where will our initial value of current row be? It will be in the form itself when we initialize it. So let us say we put the form at current row, assign the value 1. When we come here, it will be assigned the value 2. The current row will become 2 here. Okay. At every current row, we would like to get the data from the cells on our Excel worksheet into our user form. This is why we are using the get next button. Okay, so our first line of code will go like this: text, first name, dot text, that will be assigned the value from the cells current row, and 1 column 1. Alright, that will be the value, dot value. So this value from the cells will be assigned to the text box first name. Similarly, we will code the txt last name and txt mobile. The code for all the 3 text boxes has been defined. What will happen is that the current row will keep on increasing and finally it will reach the last row. So at that point of time we need to do something, and that code will come right here. So if current row is assigned the value last row plus 1, then what do we need to do? Then we will assign the value to the current row, the value of the last row. Okay, and we will ensure that when the cursor is in the last row, we give out some message, useful message to the user. So we will say message box you have reached the last row. Okay, so the user knows now that he did not keep on clicking next. Okay, and we will do the end if. The only thing now remains is to define the last row. We haven't defined the last row here in this subroutine, so we will define it exactly like we have done for the command set button. Do you see this here? We will select the range A2, go down and then get the last row. So I'm going to paste the same code here. There it is. I will run this now and we get our message. You are now in the header row. Click next to see the first data. Alright, so we say OK. and we have to click next to see our first data, which is the data about Harry. So when I click here, we get Harry's data. When I click next, we should get Laura's data, then Raman. Now when we reach the last row, it will show us this data. If we click further now, it will say you have reached the last row, and it will remain there because we have set it back to the last row. Once it comes to last row plus 1, we bring it back to the last row. So we have our perfect connection from the worksheet to our user form. Now we will see how to get the previous data. You must be wondering, how we have defined the current row, because we have never said where the current row is 1. Actually, that I have defined here in this area. If you see, during the initialization of the form, that means when the form opens, we will set the current row, the global variable current row, to 1, and if current row is 1, then we will write the message box, you are now in the header row. That is what you saw. Click next, or we could have said click the complete description, for that button. Alright, and then we also make all the 3 text boxes blank, because we are in the headers. We don't want the headers to come into our text boxes. Only when we click the next button, we should get the data from the second row. Alright, let me show you that once more. So I click here to run, and you get this message. That is from the initialization of the user form. So click next to see the first data. Okay, so we get this form here. And when I click on get next data from worksheet, I get Harry and so on. Okay, so from the initialization where the current row has been defined as 1, in the get next data, we have current row is assigned the value current row plus 1, and then we get the data. Alright, now in a similar fashion, I'm going to code the get previous data from worksheet. Alright, so I'll close this, double click on this, and here we will start with the coding. And it is quite obvious we need a counter. Now the counter will go on reducing. So when we click on the CMD previous data button, we will always be reducing the counter by 1. So we will say current row, that will become current row minus 1. That will be our starting code. Now we want to display the data always from the row 2, because in row 1 we have the headers. So we will do a smart move here. We will say if current row is greater than 1, then alone you display the data from the cells into the text boxes. Now we know that code. We know that that is text first name dot text, that will come from the cells current row, comma 1, that is our column index 1, and dot value. So we will assign the current row cells value and in column 1 to our text first name box. Similarly, we will do that for the txt last name and txt mobile. Okay. As we go on reducing the count of the row, that means we keep on subtracting 1, at some point we will reach our first row, and there we have to be very careful. We have to tell the user that he is in the first row. So we will write here else if current row is 1, then what should he do? Then he should get a message telling him that he's in the first row. So message box, this is your first record. Okay? Alright? After we have told the user that he's in his first record, we need to do a smart move. We need to change the current row and take it to our row 2 where our data is. So we will say current row will be assigned the value current row plus 1. Okay? Now we will finally end this with an end if. We will run this and see how this looks like. So we click on the run button. It shows us a message where we are located now. You are now in the header row. Click next to see the first data. So we'll say OK. And now we can click here to see, for example, Harry, Laura, Raman and so on. But now let's see whether we can go to the previous. So there it is, Laura, Harry, and this is your first record. So which is fine. Now the next step that we need to do is that when we go to the next record or we go to our previous record, we should be able to see an image of the person concerned. Okay? That will be our next coding. We'll see now how to get images onto our user form. I have done this earlier using a for loop and I will provide that link also. So I'll click on this control. I just went here on this area in the toolbox, clicked on it and then clicked and dragged it and named it as img data. Okay, and I did something here also. You can see here picture size mode. Let me just adjust this a little bit. So in the picture size mode, I selected the stretch picture size mode stretch. What this does is it actually fits the picture into that picture box. Alright, and the very important thing to note is the name, which is img data. Now every time we click on the get next data button or the get previous data from worksheet button, we want that an image of that person should be displayed. Now this coding is slightly different. Have a look. It's not difficult and you'll understand that quite easily. So I'm going to double click on get next because we have to code both the buttons. So first I'll start with get next data from worksheet. Okay, so now I'll define two variables right at the top. First will be dim name found as range. Okay, and the second one will be the file path. So f path, that will be this workbook dot path and we will add a backslash to that. So these two variables have been defined. Now the important thing to remember is that wherever this file has been stored, this Excel workbook has been stored. For example, this is lastrow.xlsm. So wherever this file is stored, you must store your picture files. Alright? They should be in the same folder. Now we can start writing our code to get the picture. So I'll click after the end if here, press enter, and here with cells current row and the index 1, we will go to txt first name, because we are going to have our images based on the first name. You can have them based on last name, or you can have them based on a certain ID, as you like. Important thing is that you get the right picture for the right person and ensure that it's unique. That means if you are going to get some value and for that you're going to get a picture, then it is better to use a ID, but I'm using this first name as a simple procedure. So we will say first name dot text. Now that will be assigned the value from the cells current row. We know this already, comma 1. Okay, we can even write value. So once that is done, we will initialize our object variable, which is name found. So set name found. This is a new learning now, dot find text first name dot text. So this will find the value here from the text name, for example Larry or Raman or Linda and so on. So once the name is found, with name found, what do we want to do? We want to get that image into our picture holder. But before we do that, we will do a simple error handling. So on error, resume next. This is done because if, for example, you don't find the image, okay, so you will get an error. It will say file not found. So to just ignore that, we write on error resume next, and we will load a dummy picture. I will load a sketch. So image data, that is the name of the picture holder, dot picture. That will be got from load picture. Okay. Then we give the file path, and that is in case of error where you have forgotten to put an image in the folder. Okay, so we will get a no-pic JPG, which will be a sketch of that person or any sketch. It just depicts that we don't have the image for that. However, if you find the image, then we will put the image there. So image data dot picture. Then we will load the right picture for that. So load picture, and again the file path and text first name dot text, and this is the ampersand dot jpg, the extension, and parenthesis close. Okay, so it will find the file path. It will take the first name. We have assigned the pictures the name, for example things like the name of the person, the first name of the person. We have given the same name to the file .jpg. Okay, so now we will end this because we started with end with and then our next end with. Okay, we have two widths here and we end both of them. Alright, now I'm going to run this and see how we get our pictures. So I'll just click on the run button. We get our standard message. You are now in the header and so on. So okay, and now we will go to next, and there you see Harry is there, next Laura, next Raman, and then we don't have a picture of Linda. I haven't placed it, so you get a sketch. Okay, in a similar fashion I'm going to code the get previous data from worksheet and I'm going to place the pictures there. You'll see it's the same code, very easy, just copy paste. Okay, so I'm going to close this now. I'm going to show you the pictures that I've placed in the folder. Okay, now I've opened the folder which has the Excel file. This is the file we have there, and you can see here, for example, Harry's picture is there. Okay, Laura, which is this one. We have Raman here, and you see the last name I think was Cindy. We don't have her picture, so you will always see this one. Wherever no picture is available, you will see this sketch. Okay, I'm going to close this now and I'm going to code this button here. Okay, now I'll double click on this. I'm in the previous data. So the same lines of code that I used in the get next button, I'm going to place here in the CMD previous data. Okay, so I'll just paste that here. So I've copied and pasted the same data that we used for the get next button into the previous data button, and you can see here it starts with which cells, current row comma 1, and goes up to the 2 end widths. You can see this complete one here is the same error handling and path to the image. Okay, now because the name found and the file path are not global variables, we need to define them also in our CMD previous data button. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and paste those two values here also. So I've pasted these two lines of code also. Now we'll run this. Okay, we'll go to the next data. Now we'll go to the previous data, and there you see it works perfectly. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.